Hello to everyone. I'm Nancy Southerland, your instructor. This is Chapter 5 entitled Analyzing the Marketing Environment. Students, these questions are the learning objectives guiding the chapter and will be explored in more detail in the following slides. I ask you to pause this slide and read over the learning objectives with the true intent of reading. I will ask you to read with true intent in all of your readings from my class. Thank you and good luck. Students, in all marketing activities, the consumer is at the center. Please note the consumer in the middle of the triangle. Anything that affects consumers affects marketers. Any change in one of these environments likely requires an adjustment to the firm's marketing mix. By identifying potential environmental trends, firms often can take proactive steps, however. The immediate environment includes the firm and its immediate influences, such as competition and corporate partners. What are Pepsi's core competencies? What do they do well? They know how to bottle beverages, distribute them to stores, and promote their brand. Students, likewise, how did they capitalize on their core competencies in face of changing market trends? The answer is, succinctly, the trend toward more diet-conscious consumers has led to the development of low-cost alternatives to sodas. Both Coke and Pepsi understood the market had changed and introduced bottled water products with great success. In 2004, Americans consumed 23 gallons of bottled water per person, 10 times as much as in 1980. What does this great consumption of water by the American consumer do to the demand for Coke and Pepsi? The increase in the consumptions of water decreases the demand for Coke and Pepsi. Their overall demand curve shifts to the left. Competition also affects consumers in the immediate environment. It is therefore critical that marketers understand their firm's competitors, including their strengths, weaknesses, and likely reactions to marketing activities. Companies would do well by performing a SWOT, strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis of their companies. Please reference your textbook, Marketing 5th edition, pages 38 through 40 for enhanced discussion. Firms must work together to create a seamless system that delivers goods and services to consumers where and when they want them. Many attribute a key reason for Walmart's success as their close relationships with their suppliers. This slide primarily references place or the supply chain. All the constituents of the supply chain working together in unison ensure that the consumer's needs are met. What are the components of the immediate environment? I want us to do an assessment. The company's capabilities, competitors, and competitive intelligence, and the company's corporate partners are the components of the immediate environment. This slide is used to review the macroenvironmental factors. The following slides provide more in-depth discussions of the macroenvironmental factors, and we will discuss the macroenvironmental factors in much detail, but please note them specifically on this slide: culture, demographics, political, legal, technology, economic, and culture, and again with consumers being in the center of the triangle. I want us to discuss the macroenvironmental factor of culture. Firms often remove brands from the market because they're poor overall sales, but this strategy can backfire when those brands have strong regional support. For example, the removal of a chowder cracker caused such upheaval among Northeastern consumers that the firm hired a tall ship to reintroduce the cracker to its New England market, where consumers had threatened to boycott all products from the company if the cracker was not returned. I want us to discuss the macroenvironmental factor demographics. What are some of the typical demographics? The answer is particularly age, gender, income, and education. Demographic segmentation is probably the most common form of segmentation because the information is so widely available. I want us to examine the generational cohorts. I want you to begin by brainstorming a list of the defining characteristics of your generation. Now that you've done that, I want you to compare your generation. Is it different from the previous generation, such as your parents, the baby boomers? What microenvironmental forces has had the most important impact on your generation? Students, the categorization of cohorts into generations is highly significant. You'll see this in many classes and in your future ahead. I want to discuss microenvironmental factors, meaning demographics at the moment, meaning income. The middle class squeeze, students, is a very global phenomenon. Many developing countries face similar income inequities to those found in the United States. Pay gaps also cause problems for many new college graduates who find that they cannot afford to live on their own and must move back in with their parents. This is a travesty. I want to discuss the microenvironmental factor of demographics, meaning education, in this slide. Do you plan personally to continue your education after graduation? Many students believe they will never return to school after they finish their bachelor's degree, but modern conditions make this choice more and more likely. Macroenvironmental factors includes demographics as well. This slide deals with gender. Male and female roles have been switching. Women now make up more than 60% of the college population. How do you believe this will affect the workplace in the future? Obviously, we will see more women in the workplace. Do you believe there are still significant gender differences? If so, what are they? Demographics are one of the macroenvironmental factors. Ethnicity is discussed on this particular slide. By 2050, minorities will represent 50% of the population of the United States of America. What steps can and should marketers take to respond to the changing ethnic mix of the United States? Many marketers already have adjusted their marketing mix to meet the needs of the ethnically diverse segments better. Please watch Carlos Mencha teach English before you advance the slide. I want us to examine macroenvironmental factors that affect marketing. In the culture, there are particular social trends. Health and wellness concerns, greener consumers, privacy concerns, all of these are social trends. This particular graphic introduces these significant social trends. And likewise, I want you to check out the video, What's Hot and Not in Celebrity Magazine Covers, from the Wall Street Journal. This particular video discusses social trends. I want to discuss macroenvironmental factors, technological advances in this slide. Arguably, the single most important change in the way we live is the introduction of new technology. Students, what new technologies have you seen at retailers, for instance? This web link is for the Shoppers Tool page of Stop and Shop, which is a large East Coast grocery retailer. They offer self-scanners, computer kiosk deli ordering, and self-checkout. And the following is a link from the Wall Street Journal. Please watch Rachel Ray's video as she goes into digital. I want to discuss macroenvironmental factors, the economic situation. It'd be very difficult to decide whether technological advances or the economic situation had a far greater impact on marketing decisions. Depending on the time of the year, we must discuss projections about Christmas shopping, vacation planning, or home buying, and all these various economic factors affect each of these areas. This slide has pictures of foreign currency, combined with inflation rates and interest rates, they all affect a firm's ability to market goods and services. The ruble fell. It's been in the last few months something that we must overcome as a nation and as a globe. I want to discuss macroenvironmental factors, the economic situation. It'd be very difficult to decide whether technological advances or the economic situation had a far greater impact on marketing decisions. Depending on the time of the year, we must discuss projections about Christmas shopping, vacation planning, or home buying, and all these various economic factors affect each of these areas. This slide has pictures of foreign currency, combined with inflation rates and interest rates. They all affect a firm's ability to market goods and services. The ruble fell. It's been in the last few months something that we must overcome as a nation and as a globe. I want to conclude the macroenvironmental factors and discuss with you the political regulatory environment that affects marketing. Many acts have been instituted throughout the years: the Sherman Antitrust Act, the Clayton Act, the Federal Trade Commission, the Robinson-Putnam Act. All of these particular pieces of legislation have affected the marketing practices. This list includes the major legislation designed to ensure a competitive marketplace and clearly demonstrates that the United States government's long history of enacting laws that protect fair trade. We're at the end of the slide presentation. Now we're going to take a few moments to assess ourselves at this particular moment. We begin with asking, what are the 6 key macroenvironmental factors? The answer is this: culture, demographics, social issues, technological advances, economic situation, and the political regulatory environment. Question number 2. Differentiate between the country culture and the regional culture. The answer: country culture is the entire country, but regional culture is based on the region or area within the country. Question 3. What are some important social trends shaping consumers' value these days? Thrift, greener consumers, marketing to children, privacy concerns, and time-poor societies. Slide 22 through 27 encompasses the glossary. I want to invite you as students of my class to go through each glossary meaning, the definition, and further put it in your head. This is important Chapter 5 content. I want to close my discussion with you and tell you thank you for listening to my lecture. In reference to Chapter 5, I'm eager to be your instructor, and I'm available for any questions that you might have. Regards. In fact, warmest regards, Nancy Southerland.